Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's March 1st, 2022. We have a quick docket today because we have our live program this evening. So let's get right to it. So the only thing on the docket today is the response filed by the government as it relates to the motion filed on behalf of Chad Daybell through his attorney, basically asking for a severance of the trial as it relates to Lori Vallow. Okay, let's talk about this. The indictment alleges conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Conspiracy is nothing more than an agreement of two or more people to commit an illegal act, taking some step in furtherance of that act. And so therefore, you're in a conspiracy. You're together. The evidence against one is going to be used against the other. So then the issue becomes, as it relates to Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, well, should the evidence be the same as it relates to each other? And what if Lori Vallow isn't there? And in my humble opinion, I don't think Lori Vallow is going to be joining us, okay? And even if she did, I think they would go an NGRI just based upon the amount of time it's taking to restore her to competency, which apparently has not yet been completed. So the evidence is basically the same. Now, Mr. Pryor, on behalf of Chad Daybell, filed a motion for severance, which was very generic and made kind of just the general claims that severance should be granted because it would be unfair. Well, under the Idaho rules, and most rules that are the same in most jurisdictions as it relates to severance, if there's evidence that is admissible as to one co-defendant but not admissible as to another, then it shouldn't come in. If there are statements that are admissible as it relates to one co-defendant as to another, then it shouldn't come in, or they should be severed. And so that's really the issue in this particular case. Here, well, just because you have inconsistent theories of defenses, which is pointing the fingers at each other, it doesn't really matter. Now, I don't know exactly what the defense is for John Pryor, the attorney for Chad Daybell. My assumption would be, based upon what I've seen, is that she did it, referring to Lori Vallow, or her brother, who's now deceased, Alex Cox, did it. That would be my theory of defense. So even if Lori Vallow is there, or evidence is being brought in against Lori Vallow, so what? I get it. The defense has to file this motion. You have to file it to preserve it. You have to re-raise it at the start of trial, at the motion for judgment of acquittal, and at the end of the trial to preserve that objection. And you have to keep doing it. I once had a trial where I kept moving for severance. It was a multiple gang rape trial. There were 5 co-defendants, and every time I got up, I would move for severance. We'd go to the bench, I'd move for severance. And then at the new trial, because we had to have a new trial based on a hung jury, the government said, we are now going to agree with Mr. Reich's motion that we should, in fact, be severed from the other co-defendants in the case. And I said, I object because I want the government to articulate what has changed other than now they think that I am correct. And, well, they really couldn't, and a lot of things changed that I can't talk about, but that's the gist of the story. Okay, the whole purpose of severance is to project a fair trial. If assuming Lori Vallow is not there, doesn't join them in any way, it doesn't really matter. I think that the judge will rule that there is no prejudice. There's no inconsistent theory of defenses at this point, particularly because, well, there is no other co-defendant just yet. And it's not uncommon for conspiracy trials to proceed when one of the co-defendants is not there because they've pled guilty or they haven't been apprehended yet, but the evidence still comes in. There's no issues as it relates to any type of confession as it relates to one party that's going to be admissible as to one defendant and not to the other. That would be a big issue for motion for severance, but that is not the case here. So what does it really mean? I think what the judge will do is simply say that this issue is not ripe yet because we don't have enough of a factual basis to determine if anything that's been presented regarding inconsistent theory of defenses, co-conspirator statement issues, anything along those lines. So I think the prosecution's going to win on this particular motion. Pryor had to make the motion. He's going to have to continue to object, but the reality of it is, I don't think he's going to win this one. I think the people are. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you this evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, for our edition of After Dark every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, right here.